Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Festival of Hope, week number 5. I can't believe we're already into our 5th week of sharing the rituals, traditions, and holidays that encompass the last part of the year. As you know, we started in September. We're going all the way to January. So anyways, welcome in. We're glad to have you. So as we've discussed many times, the purpose of the Festival of Hope is to be able to provide support and community for anyone who would benefit from some extra lighthearted and really focused energy as we move out of 2020, which has been a year, and into 2021. Well, as you can imagine, there's not a holiday assigned to every single week from September all the way to January. And so there are going to be a couple of weeks where we have filled in with rituals that we've found to be valuable. And this week, our theme is Write It Out. And what we're going to be talking about is the power of journaling. So for those of you who have journaled during your lifetime or are journaling currently as we speak, I won't have to convince you that journaling is valuable, or the power of writing your feelings on paper, or typing your feelings if you use a digital diary or a digital journal. But for me, actually, I have always tried to journal and struggled to be able to do it. I've not consistently been into the practice of journaling. And then when my husband died, when Phil died in 2005, I wanted desperately a way to express myself, especially to tell him something. Like the next day I wanted to tell him something. And so I began, for the first time in my life, having a journal practice that was consistent. And every single night before I went to bed, I would write a letter to him. And I committed to myself that I would do that for 1 year. And so for the first whole year, I wrote a letter to him every night. And what I discovered in that year was that the discipline, the practice of getting into the habit of coming to that space and sort of dumping out whatever was on my heart that day, really did provide me with a respite that I had never experienced in journaling before. And so what I've found over the years is that time of my life specifically, I always recall that centering experience of using my journal to be able to express, in that case specifically to Phil, what I wanted to say. But what I've been thinking about lately, and in particular as we are all making our way through this unprecedented year, is that there's so many feelings that come to top of mind. There's so much stuff that keeps coming up, and each day seems to have new revelations, and as it relates to how we're feeling, what we're managing, what changed from yesterday. And so it occurred to me while we were talking about what other rituals might we add, that journaling would be a really positive way for us collectively to process our feelings. There's a lot of research done about the power of writing and the power of journaling. I do want to mention that you do not have to be a writer to journal, and that journaling comes in a variety of different formats, including doodling, including picture journals, including word lists. You don't have to sit down and just write whatever comes into your head. If you don't find that natural, you can make lists for people. It'll be, the top 3 things that have been difficult about today, or the top 3 things that have been great about today. Many times, I'm positive, heard of gratitude journals. And that kind of journaling is expressing what you're grateful for on a daily basis. So there's just a bunch of different ways to journal. So I want to just say to you, first of all, that there's no one way that we're advocating that you have a journal that is, all words or all pictures or all anything. You get to determine what your journal looks like. That's the whole purpose of journaling. So we'll have a couple of guests this week. One of our guests, I hope you've read her book. It's called From Scratch, and it is written by actor, director, advocate and actress, Tembi Locke. She wrote a beautiful book about, it is about her husband's journey, her and her husband's journey through his cancer diagnosis. But it includes travel and food with all of the themes that are kind of woven into Tembi's book. And basically, it's about love. And it's about love through caregiving, love through food, love through travel, love through community. It's a really beautiful book that includes recipes from a Sicilian Italian recipes that Tembi and her late husband was a chef. And so her book is just a beautiful expression of how you can use words, but you can also use a variety of other things to express yourself through journaling. So Tembi is going to share her personal story with us tomorrow. So for our community member highlight, you'll see Tembi Locke right here on the Festival of Hope page under our community videos. You'll also be able to find that through all of our social media channels. So Tembi is going to be our community member who's going to speak with to her experience through video on Tuesday, but also we're going to have a Zoom call where we kind of do a little bit of prompt, and I'm going to do some interviewing of Tembi. Anybody who's heard Tembi speak will confirm for me and for you how great it is to hear her perspective on writing. She really felt like she used writing not only to process her grief, but she used it to build her new life and to really kind of sort through what she wanted. And so my challenge for all of us is to think about, what is it that we want in this time? What do we want as we close out 2020 and come into 2021? And wouldn't that be a great place to start in your journal, which is the question, what is it I want from the rest of 2020? What is it I want to bring with me into 2021? Now, you could write paragraphs on that, or you could make a bullet point list. So you could write there, these are the 3 things I'd really like to see as I close out 2020. These are things I'd like to welcome in 2021. I feel like the beauty of where the Write It Out journaling theme came in for us is that it came right after Rosh Hashanah, where we welcome sweetness, the fall equinox, where we start to gather and consider our abundance. Then again with Yom Kippur, where we are releasing the things that no longer serve us and really renewing the things in us that we want to take with us into 2021. And then this last week, Canadian Thanksgiving, by the way, to all of our Canadian community members, happy Thanksgiving to you. I truly hope that your Thanksgiving is full of people who love you and people that you love. And even if we're not able to see those people in person as we normally would, we really hope that their energy and love is felt by you and by your families as you celebrate the day today. So we honored Canadian Thanksgiving last week, but today is actual Canadian Thanksgiving. So we talked about gathering the things we actually want to bring with us, to think about abundance as something that we reach out for and draw in. And so as we have gone through those 4 weeks, to land now on Write It Out feels like the perfect expression of all of the weeks that have come before, and the opportunity for us to take those ideas and those thoughts that we've had over these weeks and note them in whatever way makes sense in your journal. So we do have a special guest scheduled for today. We happen to know that he's having computer issues, so I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to join us, but I want to tell you about him a little bit. His name is Norm Trento. He is one of the founding partners of a company called journals.com. And here he is. Perfect timing. I was just talking about you, Norm.
I know my ears are red.
Good. Welcome in with you and your red ears. It's lovely to have you.
Great
So
to be
we're just
here.
talking about journaling, about the power of journaling, about how people use journals, and that there's a variety of different types of journaling. But I hadn't yet gotten to talk about you and your love for journaling. So instead of me talking about it, I'm going to ask you to talk about it. I'd like to first know, what is it you love about journaling, and how did journaling come into your life?
Well, I have always been a graphic artist. So being very creative in writing and drawing has always been just a passion of mine. But I came into journaling about 6 years ago, and it was probably the hardest time and the most difficult time in my life. And at that moment, everything had been stripped from me, and I was separated from my wife, and I was going through a lot of changes. And journaling was the one consistent habit that helped me dump deep, deep emotional pain, things that I had stuffed down in my soul that I carried around like baggage full of rocks. And journaling just seemed to be a channel where I could express without interruption. And my thoughts would become untangled and just pour into these mead journals. The $2 ones you get at Target.
Nice. Yeah.
I started there and just started to fill them. And I would write out, like I said, those deep emotions. And over the course of time, in doing that, what I found was when I would go back and read them, I would find excerpts of a couple pages that just sounded like a different voice. Somebody started to show up in my writing that was revealing himself as the real me. And through that expression of honesty and vulnerability, I found a really deep connection with trying to find truth in my pain, why I was the way that I was. Why was I suffering? And at that point in my life, how was I going to get better? What was I going to focus on? And things were so chaotic that journaling was the only consistent thing that I was able to take control over at that point in my life and give myself a couple minutes a day. It didn't matter if it was the morning, if it was at my desk, if it was at night before I went to bed. But the goal was don't let the sun go down. Don't put your head on the pillow without taking the time to just dump the day. And over the course of, like I said, a couple of years, I started to develop and design my own journals. I found a rhythm for what was important and what was key for me to touch in on a daily basis with. My faith, my time, what was I fueling my body and my mind with? How was my relationships? Where was I with my fitness and my finance? And in those, like I said, daily rhythms of writing out where I was in my horizontal and my vertical balance, I found that document, my journal, became the most precious thing that I owned, because I could sit down and go back months and take, an hour or two and read through your life, but read through it in a voice that was comforting, in a voice that was raw and honest. And that kept me grounded. It made me want to be a better husband, a better father, a better speaker and teacher in our ministry. So it just journal penetrated me in so many different ways. And like I said, it came about at a crucial point in my life where I had nothing else to do except work on myself.
Nice.
That's the best way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you expressed that, because right before you came on, I was talking about the only time in my life that I had ever regularly journaled was after Phil's death. And I wrote to him every day. And it was the same for me. It was like, don't go to bed until you write down a few words. And those journals have become one of the most precious things I have, because I have an entire year's worth of, you know, process and of
Yeah.
thoughts and feelings and of love for him and of discovery of myself. And so I think that your point is so well made, which is that, the journal it is valuable as a tool as you're writing it, but it is also becomes this beautiful record that that is you, that becomes the development of you. And so whatever it is that you're making your way through, whatever life challenges you face, and I was talking a little bit earlier before you came on about how we're all sort of having new experiences every day in this sort of unprecedented time we're living in, and to be able to put those down and to make your way through them by learning about yourself as you're writing them can be such a powerful experience.
Absolutely. I think right now, because of COVID and everything being turned upside down, that when common familiarity goes out the window, that our human nature just wants to react, and it reacts horribly. But journaling is a response. And what I love about journaling is you have your thoughts and you have your feelings, and they cannot be one and the same all of the time. We want to control them to be the same, but that is impossible. They get out of hand, they get out of whack. But when you sit down and you go to journal, you have to mesh those two together on the page. And I find that if I jump ahead and I focus on my feelings, I kind of force my thoughts into my feelings. But if I really take some time to process where I'm at, so if I'm having a horrible day, or I want to go off on something, or whatever it was, I start naturally with where I'm at feeling wise. My thoughts then, as I'm dumping out the emotion, can kind of be the governance and look over what is coming out on the page and then shed some truth as to, okay, well, how do I think about that? Because if I start and I do it any other way, my thoughts then can kind of be affected by my emotions. So it's
Yeah.
really important for me to focus when I journal about where I am personally right there in that time and space, and then apply it to where I want to be in the future. Where are my thoughts taking? Where is my life leading me? What is the bigger goal that I'm journaling to? So it's a daily habit, but it keeps me connected in that future momentum of my transformation and where I was 6 years ago and where I'm headed.
I love that. Also, I talked a little bit about how journaling doesn't have to necessarily be paragraphs. It can be bullet points, it can start with lists, it can be words, it can be pictures. And one of the things that most clearly brought that home to me was the way that you've laid out journals as a company and as an actual intangible product that you hold. So, would you tell us just a little bit about journals as a company, what your goal is with that, and then also the physical product you're making? What are you doing that's different, and what would be interesting for people who are just beginning to journal to be able to choose a journal's actual journal to begin?
So we created journals because for us, anybody can go pick up, like I said, at Target, like a $2 or $5, piece of pad and start writing. What is unique about the journals that we created is journals as a tool, and it's a tool for creating a unique, one of a kind product. And our whole goal from the beginning was, in the first product that we wanted to create as a journal, we wanted it to be personal, but personal to where it gets to those feelings that I was mentioning. So if somebody could create a journal and upload pictures of somebody they lost, upload their favorite place to camp, upload their favorite nanny, their grandma, their food, whatever it is that image that stirs your heart and gives you vision and purpose and makes you feel whole, that should be on the cover of your journal. Even if you don't possess it, it is something that you are aspiring to. And having something on your journal that is emotionally connected to you genuinely stirs you to write. It stirs you towards that habit. It becomes a little bit more of a pull to not let go that day without writing in that specific journal. And the second thing was, it also is way more impactful if that journal is given as a gift. Meaning, if I created it for you because we were friends and I knew something personally about you, and I gave that journal to you, now it has two emotional connections. It has the one thing that we shared in common, but now it also has that bond of it being a gift and something special between our friendship. So in that, because the same thing that I found in doing research and journaling myself, was it is community. We as people are made for community, period. And when you start journaling, it's not just you in isolation. Your thoughts and emotions are almost becoming a community within your journal. And as you start to develop and pump more into that community, you get more out of it. And that whole, what we call win-win in journals, and why we created journals, was because that win-win is in the habit of journaling. I journal personally, I get something beneficial for me out of it. But furthermore, that I'm so excited about that I want to share that with the people around me that I care about. And those two things is what spurred on journaling. Is it personally happened to me, and the partner, Harry, who owns Corporate Graphics, the print company. So we came from print. We had all of the experience in the background to put together the product. We both had personal experiences in journaling. So it just came together, naturally in building a website and a company that was going to be focusing on doing one thing and one thing really well. And that was kind of our big mission, was to bring that win-win strategy to as many people as we can who could benefit with a habit of journaling.
I love it. So I want to let everyone know that if you're interested in designing your own custom journal, there is not only an opportunity for you to create something beautiful that means something to you and perhaps will support you in your efforts to use the journal as a tool for processing all of life as it happens. It is also a fundraiser for Soaring Spirits. So we were super grateful to Corporate Graphics and Journals for being willing to partner with Soaring Spirits. We will put that link up shortly so that you'll be able to take a look at our website, which there it is. You've got it right there. So that link will take you directly to the Soaring Spirits page within the journals community, and you have the opportunity to take a look at what we're talking about. But on to the next step, Norm. I want to know, what do you recommend for people who are struggling or who have never started a journaling habit, who've never had that experience? What's your advice for getting started?
That's a great question. I have been journaling, like I said, now for quite some time, but I've gotten other people really involved in journaling. So from family members to people that I sponsor to people that I serve with in the jail ministry, here at work, finding somebody, or not finding, but inspiring somebody to journal isn't something that I can just go tell somebody and they're going to do it. It has to be modeled. And I think for how you're going to get somebody into journaling starts with the same way we all have a love language, or we all have a certain way that we learn, and a certain way that we listen, and a certain way that we get inspired. Not everybody is just out of the gate willing to sit down or think, oh, you know what, journaling is going to be beneficial, or journaling is something I like, or it's even something I should try. So with my teenage kids, it became extremely difficult to just say, here, sit down and journal. But if I was to create a journal and, let's say, choose a specific book or a specific study or a specific topic that they were interested in, now I could customize that journal around that topic or around that book or around a subject that they were interested in. So with my kids, it was designing a cover for my son who wanted to be an astronaut, and his cover was all NASA. And it all was quotes that were in his likeness for his personality and who he was. And for my daughter, it was about traveling in Greece and design. And so when they got those journals from me and my wife and said, here's what we're going to do as a part of our family Sunday, is we're going to get together and we're going to journal each week, and then we're going to sit down over breakfast on Sunday and share. So again, the journal by itself is just a journal, but that journal, when it's put around a topic and it's tied to a relationship and it's brought in a way that's personalized to that individual, it becomes something deeper and it connects those people who are in that community. So I would only inspire anybody who's looking to share journaling or step into journaling is to ask yourself those first couple questions. What is it that I like? What are the things that I really enjoy doing? And if I was going to sit down and write about it, how would that apply to me? Or the flip side is, what is the thing that I'm struggling with the most right now? Or what is the thing that is the deepest and heaviest in my heart right now? And what would journaling, or how could journaling start a process to help me move forward in where I am in my life? And in that, for instance, to choose a book or something else that you were educating and researching or studying to help you with those struggles, that journal becomes a companion, a parallel tool that you can use, and it becomes 10 times more effective if you're doing that in a community with other people that are journaling and studying the same resource material. So I would say, it's kind of a longer answer, but if you can inspire somebody with that cover and with a really good personal incentive, I find that it starts that daily habit. And the more, I think the other thing too that I loved about journaling was it's one thing to write, it's another thing to read it and understand it. But the third thing about journaling, and I think this is the most important, is then to share that. So if I write down something and it's an epiphany to me of truth that I found in suffering and all the experiences and mistakes that I made in my life, it's 10 times more devastating to then not share that experience with people around me. So if I read about it and journal about it and I keep it to myself, okay, but that helped me. But if I'm in a small group and I'm journaling and I'm sharing that week to week or month to month with my community, they get not just inspired in my story, but inspired in wanting to journal. So like I said, I find that journaling has to be lived out. As with everything else that is difficult in life, you can't just use words and say it. You have to go put in the hours, put in the work of taking 20 minutes a day and just writing out top to bottom where you are, heart, mind, soul, and where does that lead you tomorrow.
So that's a good tip right there, friends. Heart, mind, soul. So maybe on your page you write heart, mind, soul. And if you design your custom journal, you would have the opportunity to add that as well. But I know that for some people it can be overwhelming to think, I've never journaled. I don't even know what I would write about or how I would write it. And in particular for people who are living at home alone, especially during this time, using this journal as an opportunity to sort of break down how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, what's on top of mind, as Norm said, what's heavy on your heart, is a way to begin. Heart, mind, soul. Maybe for you it's body. Maybe you want to add something that, like your suggestion of body. Where am I in my finance? Where am I in my relationships? And remember that this is a place where you can bring those things together. And much like the Write It Out topic has brought together our last 4 weeks, and give us an opportunity to start there and say, Rosh Hashanah, what sweetness do I want to welcome into my life? The autumn equinox, what harvest have I gathered this year? Then we go to Yom Kippur, what do I want to release? What do I want to renew? And then Canadian Thanksgiving, what am I gathering? What am I bringing to myself? These are questions that all can be processed within your journal. So, Norm, we are running out of time, believe it or not, but I'm super grateful for your sharing. I'm always inspired by Norm because he loves journaling so much, and he loves to share it, and he loves for people to experience the joy and the value of it, and so much so that he created a company with his partner, Harry, for that express purpose. So, Norm, I thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your life with us through your passion for journaling. To all of you, this is just the beginning of our journaling conversation. We will be talking about journaling tomorrow with Tembi. Then we'll be giving you some facts and some things to think about for journaling on Wednesday. Thursday is our Zoom call where we're going to be working on journaling together, speaking of community. So we'll talk about what that looks like for us here. But in the meantime, be well, take care of yourselves, please be kind, and thank you so much, Norm. It was a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Have a good rest of the evening to all of you. I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday, but keep an eye on social media. Watch out for your Festival of Hope emails. All the details for the rest of the week are coming to you soon. Take care. Be well. Thank you.
Bye.